What do we need to know about the ascendant in astrology? Well, the ascendant represents the mask that you wear. It also represents your body type, and it's one of the angles in your natal birth chart, along with the descendant and midheaven and IC. In this video, we're going to talk about the ascendant in the first zodiac sign, Aries. And we're going to talk about the characteristics and traits of what this means if you have an Aries rising. So the very, very first thing is that people with an Aries rising are very, very direct in their speech and their actions, and they're also very straightforward. They mean what they do what they mean. They're very, very direct and very simple, cutting right to the point of things, getting right to the point, getting right to that sweet spot of desire and going after their desires. They act rather than think. They have the tendency to act before they think, um, rather than think before they act, which can be a pitfall and which could be detrimental to them in relationships somewhat because they need to sort of, we all need to think about what we do before we do it, but they're all about taking action. They're not the best planners. They don't like to plan out their future, map it out, have a tight, rigid structure, all those kind of things. That's not them. They prefer to be spontaneous. They prefer to be in the present moment with whatever their decisions is and making it off of their feelings of what they want to do in the moment, of what's fun and feels good to them in the moment. They can be very assertive, but they're not aggressive people. They're assertive, and it also depends upon other uh, planets in the chart, other points in the chart, where it shows maybe if you have a lot of water and a lot of Pisces energy, you're less aggressive. But if you have a very, very strong Mars or a lot of Aries energy or a lot of fire energy, then you're really, really fired up and you can really amplify this Aries ascendant placement to high levels, wherever high you want to go. So the Aries ascendant is assertive but not aggressive. It goes after what it wants. It knows what it wants, it knows what it desires, and it goes in that direction. Some people with this placement are very competitive. They're very, very competitive when it comes to what they decide to act upon. And, they're always wanting to be first. They want to be the first at everything. They want to be the best at everything. So there's a very, very strong sense of having a strong sense of competition when it comes to them. It can be the case where they are coming out ahead of what they are doing. They can really emerge from that quickly. They move quickly. They act quickly. They they don't have a lot of patience when it comes to long-term goals and things that take a while, delayed gratification. They want instant gratification, and they don't like to dilly-dally. They like to find the fastest, most efficient route to get the thing done as quick as possible so that you can reap these rewards, these results. That's what they're all about. Efficiency. They have a quick temper. They're very, very short fused to react. Be careful what you say around an Aries ascendant because they may come at it with something very pointy, something very blunt back to you because of something that you said, and they may very, very well, cut you off or call you out when it comes to that. But, you don't know a person's birth time, so you're not exactly sure, if they're an Aries rising or not. They are very simple individuals. They know what they want and know how to get it. They live for action. They believe in taking action. Another thing that may be a more negative side of this placement is they are not the people that have this placement like to start things, like to initiate things, like to get something off the ground, but they're not the best at finishing it. They're not the best at following through with that goal that they've set out. And so that can be a problem when it comes to those long-term goals, when it comes to those really, really important goals, is it's about follow through. Fortunately, I would argue that Aries is more compatible with Capricorn than Cancer because Mars is considered exalted in Capricorn, and Mars happens to be the ruler of someone with an Aries rising, then they are ruled by Mars, and their chart ruler is Mars. And so someone with a Mars in Capricorn is very ambitious. They know how to go after what they want and see it through to completion. More so than if you have a lot of Gemini in your chart, or a lot of Pisces or some Aries energy. So they need to work on saying something and taking action upon it. You say you're gonna do it, but are you actually doing it? Are you actually manifesting what you say you're gonna do? So following through with that and seeing it through to completion is what their goal is in life, their challenge is in life. In terms of their movements, they like to swiftly walk with their head forward. So that's what they're all about, leaning their head forward and swiftly walking, because the ascendant rules your body type and your just sort of how you function, how you go about your life. In terms of the health side of things, these people can experience more headaches, more sinus issues, and eye issues because Aries rules the head, Aries rules the face. So this body area becomes into focus, and there can be issues with the top part of the body, with the with the penthouse part of the body. So, they may have also facial or skin rashes as well. Maybe their skin is more red than other kinds of skin. Instead they possess a youthful charm. They're very, very charming, very, exuberant. They're very, very childlike in their essence and what they put out, what they put out into the world is they're childlike. Um, there's a youthfulness about them. And there's an enthusiasm for life. There's a curiosity for life that they hold true to themselves. They like to be independent. They like to go at their goals on their own. They're not a big fan of relying on other people and doing things collaboratively, which is the opposite sign of Libra, working with other people, that kind of thing. So they're more independent minded. They want to do things on their own because they believe that, if you want it done right, do it yourself. And so that's sort of what they're all about. Um, They appear fine and they appear great doing things on their own. And it is preferred for them to do things on their own because that's what they're rising into. That's what their soul is calling for them, is to be self-sufficient, to be independent. They want to rise into being self-reliant, as I've said. They're very willing to compromise in their relationships, believe it or not. So they will work with you and make compromises in their relationships to see that their wants are being met and the other person's wants are being met to find that sweet spot in the middle, which is a compromise. Um, and so, as I've said, they prefer to be spontaneous individuals. There's a boldness to them. They're very, very bold, and they like to take the lead of their life. They thrive in roles of leadership. Um, it expresses the will to power if you have this placement. So you're very, very willful, very, very strong, very, very powerful. They want to manifest their ideas. They want to act on their visions. They want to act on their great ideas, manifesting it in the physical world. And so there is expression on the intuitive level for them. It's expressing themselves intuitively. There's intuitive insight and more practical application. They need to find a compassionate way to deliver their psychic messages. Finding, not being direct, not being completely, sort of blunt and, perhaps rude, um, where they're a disturber of a lot of people's things going on. So, they have such a strong enthusiasm for life. They have a quick wit and they prefer to be spontaneous. So their enthusiasm for life is really, really up there, up on the charts. Um, they may thrive in easing others' difficult path. Really, really, really giving words of encouragement and believing in other people that they can do so many things. And that's sort of, I'm filming this at the time of recording this. Neptune has just stepped into Aries, and it's not about, um, having compassion, but sort of surrendering to the person's weakness, but it's about lifting that person up to encourage them, you can do this. And that is very, very compassionate in nature. And that's one of the gifts of people with Neptune and Aries is that they're all that encouragement and motivating people to pursue greatness, and that's really how they show their compassion in that regard of things. So, they want to see them reach up to the next level of creativity. They want to see themselves and others reach up that ladder of creativity because they're very creative people. They have a lively and expressive personality and nature. Their intellect functions best when it is paired with their intuition. Their instinct, their gut is very, very strong. Your sensitivity deepens when you open yourself up to the world of intuition. Um, when you really, really open yourself up to receiving those intuitive messages and acting upon that intuition, then they can become more sensitive when they come intuitive. And sensitive is not a bad thing. It's a very, very good thing because you're more understanding and empathetic of people, and there is a positive message of discernment in the sensitivity. Your physical health is affected by your fiery energy. Whatever you do, whatever you say, your physical health is going to come out of that. And, depends upon what you're doing in your life. Head and your eyes are very important body parts for you. You may have a lot of headaches, and eyes getting tired. You may need to rest your eyes from time to time. Very, very important. The thing about Aries is that they're head first. They meet life head on. People with Aries rising have a way of meeting life as it is for what it is, facing reality, taking action upon their desires. They can throw themselves into tasks with zest and enthusiasm. They're confident and arrogant at times in your appearance to others. So, they're very confident in their nature, but that confidence, that belief in themselves, can also turn to being arrogance if it is more on the shadow side of confidence. Um, they may be oblivious to others' needs from time to time. They're more self-focused, they're more self-centered at the time. They can lend themselves to being negatively and positively selfish, because Aries is about the self. I am. So they are self-reliant and dependent upon validation and approval from others. Not dependent upon these things. Let's get that clear. They're not dependent upon approval. They don't need validation. They just have something that they want to manifest and then they go after it. They have something that they want to get and they, are willing to put in the work to get it. They do not cooperate very well in groups. They prefer to do things independently. They prefer freedom and obstacles, freedom and challenges. They love a good challenge. They love to really prove themselves that they can do all these challenges. They're very decisive and they're self-assured. So, um, they don't take a whole lot to make a decision and they're very sure of themselves. There's an urgency and an excitement to their ideas that they want to express. They're intense and passionate. Um, what you see is what you get from an Aries rising person. Their personality is very dynamic. They come across as determined and strong-willed. And so you have this way of getting people to respect you, getting people to get on your side, to support you, to respect you as a leader. You have people to, fall in line with what you want and what you desire. Other people may wish that they were as confident as you are. You may own who you are. You may be aligned with the higher self from a young age, along with your higher self. That's the high root of this placement is aligning with your higher self. So you feel the freedom. It's about giving yourself more space, not less. Giving yourself the space and the freedom to create the life that you genuinely want. Um, you have the energy and purpose to go after your desires. Um, You're learning to be a leader in this life. You're extroverted and vibrant. So you're more about, getting to know people, getting out into the world, that kind of thing. You are perceived as exciting and fun. You're a very, very fun person to be around. You also do well under pressure. So you can, commit to something and do something when there's that pressure added. You work very, very well under pressure. Adrenaline, adrenaline revises you. You thrive on competition. It's a very, very strong point in this placement. They're highly decisive. They want to be first in everything that they do. They hate losing. Um, and they can lend themselves at the low level to being very impatient, not being patient to wait for those results, the importance of delayed gratification. And they can also lend themselves to being impulsive at the low level. So thinking before they act is very, very important for them. So that is all that you need to know about the Aries ascendant and astrology. If you have this placement in your natal chart, that is all you need to know for that. Thank you for watching. Like this video, subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.